Welcome back to another episode of Sundays with Sully. As always, I'm your host Chris Sullivan, and today we're going to be going over the FLIR Raymarine AX8 engine room camera. We're going to kind of go over it a little more in depth. It's a piece of technology that's been out there a couple of minutes. I don't think everybody realizes what this can do for you. So, before I get any further into this, this is a Raymarine FLIR AX8 camera. It only works currently, as of January 2020, in the Raymarine world. There's discussion that it should be in the future, hopefully soon, available in the Garmin world as well. Now, this camera, and what can it do for you? It is a dual payload camera. That means we've got a night vision camera, we've got a daytime camera, and in this case we also have a light on top. So if we're in an engine space, we want to use the daytime camera to turn on the light and see what's going on in there. If we've got an oil leak or something, we can do that. We're going to go over how to do that from this screen as well. So, it runs off the Ethernet. It does have a PoE, which is power over Ethernet. You have to get a power injector when you're installing this onto your system. It's not overly complicated. The only thing that I recommend, if you're going to have this installed on your boat, please get a Raymarine authorized installer who is familiar with these cameras so they can make sure to program this for you. Because just installing it, it's going to show up on your screen and it's going to work fine. But to get the full advantage of all the tools that are available to you, you need to get in with the laptop and program these couple of items in here that we're going to go over. Because you have the ability with this to set up to 10 zones or 10 spots to set a temperature alarm. So if you decide you pinpoint this onto, say, your circulation pump on your engine, you can go, hey, that's starting to get a little warm. So before you even get an overheat alarm, you can set this to go off and say, hey, you know what? It was normally running at 70, now it's running at 90. Before it starts ramping its way up, this is going to tell you. It's going to send an alarm on the screen. You can set a box. So if you want to put it on your exhaust manifold, you want to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, manifold's getting a little warm. We can do that too. We can also get the aggregate temperatures of things, max, mins, all of that. So there's a lot of data that you can extract out of this if it's set up and installed properly. So, for the case of this, we are in our showroom. I don't have an engine, but I do have some lights. I do have some other things that we can kind of pinpoint and do. So, I'm just going to stick this to my display for right now. We do have this going into our Axiom display. Our GS is out right now. We are going to be upgrading soon to an Axiom XL24. So that's going to give us a much bigger display to work from in the future. So we'll go ahead, take this. We're just going to kind of plop this bad guy right on there. And then what we can do is we can come over here. We're going to swipe over, and we're going to go to our camera, our FLIR icon. In this case, I've labeled it the AX8 camera. We hold it, the camera does its little nod, and bada bing, bada boom, we're up, we're running. We are in daylight mode. As you can see, I'm looking at my camera, I'm looking at lights. It's all kind of blinding. Okay, so if I come over here to the right side of the screen, I press the button. Now I can see active feed. And as soon as I hit active feed, I'm going to get three options. I'm going to get visible, thermal, and MSX. So if we come over here to thermal, that's going to give us kind of our familiar thermal image with the hot spots. And we've got right here a single pinpoint that's programmed from the factory, and it tells us our temperature. And that spot right there is 72 degrees. Now if I come over here, this is what kind of sets this apart and makes this a much more readable. I can come to MSX feed. Now when I do that, we're taking our thermal image and we're overlaying it with our regular image. And now all of a sudden I can start to see my lines, I can start to read things, I can start to see things. So it gives us a much, much better picture as far as what's going on. Now, don't necessarily need it here, but if we did need to, we go into our menu option again, we go to the gears selector, and now I can come in here and I can turn the light on for the camera. As you see, the light turns on. So if I'm in a dark space, I can turn it on. Now I've got a light. And that light can be on in the MSX feed as well. So it kind of gives you an even better image if you are in a very low light situation. So, now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go in here and we look right down the side of this. we've got in a Fahrenheit scale what our minimum and maximum temperatures are in this room. You know, we've got 93, 94 degrees. That's probably going to be our lights. Down low, we're at 52 degrees. It's, you know, the floor, it's Maine, it's cold, it's winter. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get on the laptop. You guys are going to kind of watch on the screen as this happens. I'm going to set a couple of pinpoints for alarms. You can set for a high alarm or you can set for a low alarm for temperatures. And then I'm also going to set up a perimeter alarm as well. And again, I just want to show what is possible for this. Again, I just don't think it's being utilized fully. So when I go in here, and I can take this spot right here, and I'm going to move it right over to a light. Now you see that it pops up on there, and you see in the upper left-hand corner, it shows 96 degrees. That's the temperature of that light. Then if I want to add another one, I come over here, a second one pops up on my screen, and I come over here and I go, you know, let's see what's going on in my electronics display across the way. And now you see it says SP2. In this case, it is 69 degrees. Nope, there we go. Just locked in. It's 92 degrees. And if I want to go do a perimeter, you're going to see a box show up, and I'm going to adjust the size of the box because it is scalable. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to move it over a little bit, over to here. And now you'll see that a box is just shown up on the screen. And now you see in that box, I've got a max, a min, and an average showing up on top of there. All of these populate on the left-hand side of the display. So, all these are great, all these are cool, all these are wonderful. Now let's just say on number one, I want to turn an alarm on number one, which is that top one, the 1P right there. I go in and I turn on an alarm and I say, hey, if this gets above 98 degrees, I want an alarm. So I say, yep, I want an active alarm. I am set up, and there we go. Now I have an active alarm. So if that gets above 95 degrees, there we go. Now I have an active alarm. It says, look at that, AX8 camera temperature alarm. And I say, you know what? Hey, it keeps going off. See, now it dropped down below it, but the alarm is still there until I tell it. I say, okay. Now, the alarm's going to come back because, again, we've set it right there. That's the light is. I can go and I can turn that off and tell it that, no, I do not want this alarm on anymore. And it's just that simple. So, that allows us to maintain and track temperature on any of this stuff. The box is kind of a nifty little feature, nifty little look to it. Again, for manifolds, things of that nature. It's going to really kind of allow you to see what's really kind of going on down in that engine room without getting too deep into it. So that's it. That's the FLIR Raymarine AX8 engine room camera. Kind of giving you a brief overview of everything that it can do and why you should probably make sure you have a Raymarine certified tech install it to make sure you get everything possible out of that camera. You're going to spend the money, make sure it's done right. So, that's it. It's another episode of Sundays with Sully in the books. You got any comments, questions? Leave them below for us. And make sure you give us a follow on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook to stay up to date in the latest marine tech trends. And until then, you know I'm just going to jam out. So, that's what I'm going to do.